like I've heard that you were Mukesh Ambani's note taker. Is that also myth or is that real?
In a glorified way, you could say I was a note taker. By definition, VCs are mostly wrong. Think about it, their success rate is 5%. The beauty of their business model is they still make money when they're 5% right. That basically means they're wrong 95% of the time.
One of the OGs and sharpest minds in Indian tech, the founder of InMobi and Glance, Naveen Tewari has built not one but two unicorns out of India. Today, as the leader behind InMobi's global ad platform and Glance's AI-powered consumer platform, he's shaping how literally billions of us engage with content and commerce.
For many years, we could not hire engineers because they were worried about getting married.
There's this historical, legendary story that every founder in India has heard some version of this. Masa asks you how much you want, you say 200 million, and he gives it to you. This is what I've heard.
Not at all.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am with Naveen Tewari, who is the founder of InMobi, who's the founder of Glance. And Naveen, when I was 20 years old, and I was like starting a company for the first time, like a proper company for the first time, I had heard of the InMobi story. And I had heard of, and I've seen and heard the entire story over the decade of you going out, talking to Masa, convincing, SoftBank to put $200 million in the company. You've now raised $800 million across these two companies. You've sort of built one unicorn, now on track, sort of building the second. It's been an inspiring story for kids like me back then to see what you've done from wherever you've started to wherever you are now. And I just feel like there is nobody better in India to talk to about this startup journey, especially tech advertising startups, because it's like we've never done it at that global scale apart from what you've done. So I just want this to be an absolute masterclass for everybody watching on everything from how do you think about tech startups in India? How do you build from scratch? How do you build in a time when nobody really believed in startups? This is a very different time. Today, it's like doing a startup is the cool thing. Back then, I remember when I was 20 and I started up, people thought I was unemployed, right? Like, or on the path to unemployment. And you did it even before that. So God knows what you faced then. We'll find out today. But also a masterclass in how do you raise money? How do you do the enterprise sale? Because you convince Samsung to put you on their home screen. Like, I need to learn all this sales wizardry, right? And the best part of my job, at least the content creator side of what I do, is being able to talk to people like you and just learn as much as possible. So yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Varun. And I'm very excited to be here. I've been watching your show for the past year or two. But I'm so happy to be here and just chit chat about stuff that I think I know a little bit about.
So Naveen, I want to start with your story.
Yeah.
I know you've repeated it a million times, but I want a very abridged version. I want a very short version so that we can get past the story and get straight into the masterclass.
Mm-hmm.
So where did you start? Where did you begin? How did you start InMobi? Were there failures before it? Because we always hear of the successful startup, right? Like Naveen's always been identified with InMobi, but I'm sure there was a past behind that, there was a history.
The reality with any entrepreneur is there are a bunch of failures. The beauty of the storytelling is that those failures get hidden. Let me bring you onto this. So I actually started out post my business school in 2005. And I tried to do like multiple companies from that time onwards. I had 4 failures before InMobi. And they were devastating because the reality is, as you just mentioned, right? When you are starting out in the 2005 era, everybody thinks that you're doing this because it's completely unemployable. In fact, there was a story that my mama, and I had pretty decent brands behind me. So my mama got really worried. I was like, "Ye kya ho raha hai?" And then he kind of went out and made a phone call and got me a floor manager job at a factory for like 25,000 rupees. I found that very cute. And that was the era at which this started. So having 4 failures, by the way, at that point of time was, I wouldn't say it was a hard failure because every failure is hard, but it was socially being very differently watched. And I think the world has really changed today. I love the fact that it is the in thing today. If you talk to like anybody coming up from small towns and ask, hey, what do you want to do? It's like, I want to do a startup. And I remember like these stories in the 80s and the 90s when you would ask somebody, hey, what do you plan to do? And they would say, I want to go to Bombay to become an actor, because that was seen as like, the Amitabh Bachchan stories of the 70s and the 60s and the 70s to say, hey, you could kind of make it big if you go to Bombay. I think that's been taken over by the entrepreneurship in India. And, I feel very happy that, I was one of the early ones to do it.
Okay. So let's go straight to the story, which is you were running something in SMS called mCoach, and then you pivoted to doing InMobi. First question before all of this, before what InMobi does, etc. Please tell me what the time back then was. Like, how much did people believe in the internet? Where was India with respect to internet? What year was this? Give me all the details. Like, paint a picture of India for me back then, and especially the startup ecosystem.
In When I was doing mCoach, the idea of mCoach by definition, like it basically was SMS search. So you could clearly see where India was. India was in the land of SMSs. Everybody, everybody was sending SMSs around. That was the only way of communication. So we were trying to essentially build a monetization stack on top of the SMS stack. Very soon to realize that that is not a future of communication because it's too asynchronous, it's not efficient enough. And therefore, we moved away from that medium pretty rapidly to actually have a belief that internet on mobile would actually come about. And now we had entered 2008. iPhone had been launched, but nobody really knew it will be successful or not, right? It's just like been 1 year. Android wasn't there by that time. It came in 2009. So in that era, we said, hey, in the developing world where computation is too expensive for us to, or for this part of the world to essentially own computers, mobile computation would actually take off. Therefore, one should actually build a mobile ad stack for the developing world because that's the computation that they would go after. And I was very excited because, I was not truly excited about mCoach and I could see it not necessarily succeeding. There were companies, by the way, that were getting funded in 2007 on this SMS search.
Who were the investors back then?
All the guys that you see here today, which is, Matrix and, Nexus.
They were still there back in 2007?
Yeah. They had all started their shops somewhere around 2005, 6, 7. So they were just fresh off the board, like just starting to think. Sequoia had just formed in, I think, 2006. And so all of these, like all the ones that you see here today, massively successful venture capitalists were just starting off at that point of time. And so everybody was starting off so they were trying to figure out where India would go. Entrepreneurs like myself and a bunch of others were like, okay, we should do something. So it was just very early. But going back to the story, so in 2008, when we got convinced about this thesis that mobile internet would be large, I went out, talked to investors. All of these guys I knew very well, by the way. Everybody was a friend of mine.
How?
A lot of these venture folks were coming out of McKinsey and all of these consulting companies. So there was some connection there. A lot of these folks were coming out of US business schools at that point of time. So I'd gone to HBS myself, so I'd known them, and I'd spent a little bit of time at a venture firm called Charles River, through which I was thinking and looking at India venture investing opportunity. Frankly, it was at that point of time, and I saw that I was like, wait a second, why should I be an investor in this world when I actually can be an entrepreneur in the world that venture capitalists are betting onto? So you could kind of see at that point of time VCs are betting on India, and I'm like, why should I be the one betting for somebody else in India? I can just bet for myself in India, and therefore I came to India. But in 2008, when I kind of took this idea and went to the VCs, people said two things. Okay, everybody. And I knew everybody, right? Naveen, you're amazing. We really know you. We think you're very capable. I don't know why, but no matter, doesn't matter. But there is no way there would ever be an internet economy created on mobile.
In India?
Ever. Nowhere in the world. Nothing to do with India. It's not the future.
So you're saying VCs were wrong?
I generally say that. Look, by the way, by definition, VCs are mostly wrong. Think about it. Their success rate is 5%. The beauty of their business model is they still make money when they're 5% right. That basically means they're wrong 95% of the time. So you should be very careful if you take advice from a venture capitalist, because they're mostly going to be wrong. And they're wrong when they put money behind companies most of the time. So, but that's a topic which we can touch upon later. So they basically said this. And then I was like, okay, this is very disheartening. And look, at that point of time, it's very hard to have, you know, like your conviction starts to falter a little bit, right? You kind of show conviction, but it still starts to kind of go away. And so then I went to the US. I was like, okay, maybe I should just go try to the US and go there. So I started to go to the US and, go VC after VC after VC. And the narrative was different. And now the narrative was, Naveen, absolutely there would be an economy on mobile internet. That's a given. What are you talking about? And there would be a need for a mobile ad stack. Amazing idea. We just don't think you're the guy for it because you're doing this out of India. So I was caught in this crosshair, which is a very interesting crosshair. The crosshair was, wait a second, just the fact that I have a great idea is not being recognized by people in my region. If I come to a different place, they're seeing the idea to be amazing and global but they think that doing this out of India is absolute, it's absurd. Now, the other part of entrepreneurship or venture, the relationship between an entrepreneur and VC is you don't need 100 people to say yes to you. You only need one person to say yes to you. And that's what happened with us. We got who I would say the Michael Jordan of investing, like Kleiner Perkins and Ram Shriram, to say, hey, we really think the idea is amazing. We are one of those who is going to back India. So it's amazing that you're doing it out of India. We think it's a great opportunity. We're going to give you a lot of money.
How much was a lot of money for that?
$7.1 million. This is 2008, April of 2008. We got $7 million. Just prior to that, my bank account had 20,000 rupees. So for me to fathom what $7 million looks like, I couldn't fathom. And I'll tell you a side story on that. Like in the meeting when I was told, hey, we are investing $7 million into you, I didn't know how to react because, by that time I had spent 5 months hearing no's. I would have recycled or surfaced through like 40 plus investors. I'd gone everybody. I would go into a meeting knowing I'm going to hear a no because I was habitual to hearing no. So I heard a no. I was expecting a no, sorry, and I somebody said a yes. And I had to gather myself to finish that meeting. I came out of that meeting. I go into, it was in San Francisco. I go into my rented car and I pass out for 3 hours because I was, you have this burden for not the last 5 months. The burden was for the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years, probably 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, because it took 3 years, frankly, for me to actually see first big backing that could get you to a place of what you would call, hey, I have you have a pass to go do something. Otherwise, you just didn't have the money to do it. So 3 years, 4 failures, almost the 5th one being a failure. You started to run out of the energy to actually do it. So, I can never forget that moment. That kind of gives you not just a lifeline. I would not call it a lifeline only. It was a ticket to go make it happen big. And but I think every entrepreneur has these stories. This is just mine.
I want to go to the next piece of this, right, which is the MVP. Let's say now you raise this money. I'm sure you hired some engineers, you hired a bunch of people. What did you build next? Like, what was the first version of the product and how do you get your first sale? Who ended up paying for it? What was the customer meeting like? What do you say in the meeting? Like, I want everyone to know everything.
So we had some version of the MVP product being built ahead of this, investment. So our first product was almost hand-stitched by Mohit, my co-founder, and he's currently the CTO of the company. he had these few engineers that we had somehow gotten on. By the way, the engineering story is very interesting. For many years, almost for a year, year and a half, we could not hire engineers. The reason engineers would not join us because they were worried about getting married. And to join a startup meant that they were not worthy enough for a good proposal.
You know, it's the opposite today.
I know, but I'll tell you what we had to do. We had to go out, call for a press conference. I begged Times of India to say, hey, cover me. Like, just like do a coverage on me. We are a startup and do something for us. And they did. And they put us up on like one of their pages. Hey, a startup is trying to do something. I did not need the publicity. The only reason to do that was, God, please let my engineers show this at their homes so that they can actually come in and like work for me and hopefully get married. And like that worked. That worked.
So you had the MVP. Can you tell us what the MVP was and who your first customer was and how did you exactly sell the first deal? What is the price? Give me micro details.
So my first customer was Diageo. The first check they gave me, and Diageo in India, and the first check they gave me was 5,000 rupees. Okay, 5,000 rupee check. And they asked us to run a campaign for them in what we would call the mobile internet, but it was the WAP world. Basically, very low end internet.
Yeah, I remember the WAP.
The
world.
WAP, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you kind of just revealing your age when anybody connects with this WAP world, like you're like, okay, you belong to a pre-smartphone era. But you know that's what we did. We ran that campaign. Abhay went and sold that campaign, and I still remember he had tears in his eyes. I'm pretty sure we have that picture of that check somewhere because it meant a lot to us. We by then had realized how valuable is the first customer, how valuable is the first engineer, how valuable is the first investor, how valuable is like the first of anything that you do.
So what did the first customer do for you? Like, did it give you motivation that, yes, this works? Like, what did it do for you?
It made us cry because it was not easy to get the first customer. Just like I told you the story of the first investor, major investor to come and back us. The first customer also wasn't easy. It took us months to land the first customer. You have to realize nobody understood that, like, nobody even wanted to talk to a startup because there was no concept of talking to a startup. We would make phone calls to people, they would not respond. I remember going to a customer. They called me on like 9 a.m. in Delhi in their office. I reached 9 a.m. in the office. I sat there. At 6:30 p.m., I sat at the reception. At 6:30 p.m., we get a message through the reception to say, hey, it's too busy today. Like, can you come tomorrow? And I was like, okay. So come the next day. You sit again from 9 a.m. The next day at 6:30 p.m., they gave me 7 minutes. Literally to tell me, look, we don't think we want to work with you. Now, it is very devastating to hear it because, you don't even have the money to fly to Delhi. So now you're flying to Delhi. So I think that getting the first customer is very painful. It doesn't give you you lack confidence. After every meeting, you're lacking confidence. The first customer gave you just enough confidence to say, I can go for the second one. That is all it did for us. It did not tell us that we'll be successful. It did not tell us that. It just told us, I can go for the second one. Because till you have the first one, you don't have a customer.
When you did the WAP campaign, what exactly was the dynamic of the campaign? Like, what did it do for your customer?
I think for the customer, in my view, they were and evolved. They're a global franchise, right? So they wanted to test digital. What they knew was that digital in India was not really happening on computers. It's happening on mobile phones. So they were like, we should test you on mobile phones. And therefore, when they tested us on mobile phones, like, it was amazing. I'll tell you one more story, by the way, on customers testing us. So I was called for a meeting to say, hey, we have some mobile inventory. Can you monetize that mobile inventory? And can you show up? Because what part of our business model is that we can rent mobile inventory from somebody else and then put ads on it. So I went to the customer, and customer said, hey, have chai. And I had chai. And then they said, okay, let's go outside. I'll show you my mobile inventory. I'm like, what do you mean go outside? And what are you talking about? So it took me outside. There was a truck. A truck had a mobile billboard. And that was the understanding of mobile inventory. He showed me a truck and he said, the truck passes through. I have two such trucks. They pass through the city. Can you serve ads on it? I can't even explain to you what happened to me, because, these are like early days, and you question yourself, have I just entered into a world that is just so unknown to people that I don't know where this is headed? But those have been our experiences, and they're not like, I'm pretty sure there are a bunch more. But yeah, you kind of fight those as the new world gets created. I think we did land into a world where we were betting into a new world far ahead of many others.
But all of this snowballs. So I'm sure after your first customer, you got your second, and then it snowballed. When did you know this was snowballing?
2009. 2009, we knew it was snowballing, but the snowballing was not happening in just one country. It was happening in these little pockets across the world. And so there was a big decision we made. We realized that this is a phenomena, but a phenomena that's not happening in one country, not by all the customers. It is happening by a handful of customers across the globe. So we expanded ourselves in 2008, towards the end of 2008. One of our biggest decisions we made was to say, hey, we would like to build this company as a global company.
Is that because you saw evidence from abroad?
Yes, we saw evidence from abroad, a very, very limited evidence from abroad. We saw two evidences that if we were to be successful in India, in this internet space, at best we'll be a very small player. That was clear to us.
What does small player mean? How big was that?
Irrelevant. We would be irrelevant if we were to be successful. And I think that decision is okay, because when I look in hindsight in players who are our contemporary in this part of the world in 2009 and 10, they're not there. So I think some of these decisions to say, hey, let's just go build a global platform, it is not based on a lot of logic, by the way. Also, it's not based on logic. It's like, you saw some signs, but I was like, it's not good enough for me to be able to convince anybody that that's the right strategy. It was just good enough to say, our gut says that we should go global. It was very hard to convince everybody on our board and everything to say, hey, we should build a global company. But, I think that's what, entrepreneurship is about, to make these calls ahead of where everybody else sees them. We would hear from some online forum that there are players who are trying to think about this in Africa. There are players who are thinking about this in Indonesia, in Thailand, in different parts of the world. Instead, I think that the big difference for us was we decided that instead of taking a flight only to a Delhi or a Bombay, we would take these slightly longer flights and see if these opportunities in these small micro pockets we can connect together. And instead of trying to develop these pockets in our own country, where we had to develop these, we were tapping into these pockets that were emanating by themselves. So the difference for us was we did not try to develop India as a market. We basically went after pockets that we could see and stitch all of them together. And that worked for us because suddenly we had these, 15 pockets in the world where we would be on a flight. One of us would be on a flight at any point of time. We would be on these flights to, you know, whether east or west. We would just be there picking these pockets, connecting them, and suddenly, a year later, we had a sizable business. It was $1 million company.
How many customers did you have? And now the ticket sizes have gone up?
No, we just had more customers. We were running even faster. You know what? The internet was evolving, right? So it was not as if the internet wasn't evolving. More pockets, more pockets, more pockets. So we had this strategy called show up. Show up. Till 2011, we just showed up rapidly. And we would service most of our customers from India, all of our customers from India, we would just show up. You just needed to tell us that you would have a business, we would show up. And that started to create a flywheel, a beautiful flywheel that we could see, a flywheel of scale that was, in the larger scheme of things, still a micro flywheel, okay? But it was started. And that, we did that for 3 years. The beauty of a flywheel is it compounds pretty rapidly, and we could see it compounding. And
So the outbound was transforming into inbound now, I would say.
it was also transforming into an inbound by 2011. It was also, and what happens is, backers. Who is a backer? Investor is a backer. Who is the other backer? People who will work for you are backers. They want to back the number one company in that sector. So we started to get amazing talent. The world had started to turn around a little bit. People wanted to work for, I wouldn't call it yet the startups only, but things that are like different.
Narrative started shifting.
Yeah, it had started to shift. So we started to get good people. Investors are looking at different companies in that sector. We were still smaller than the companies that were in the US because we had not tapped into the US market yet. Our strategy was go everywhere where the biggest players are not showing up, which is the players in the US. And what was happening at that point of time in the US, there were about, call it 5 to 10 players. They were fighting each other out in that market, which was, of course, like 10 times bigger than these markets that we are going after. But we were able to do this more efficiently, without competition. We had created this flywheel that was unique, a flywheel that had rest of the world put together, but not the US. Everybody else was undercutting themselves in a US market, and we did not venture in that market. We did not go into that market. We just said,
So
hey.
you avoided the obvious.
Well, in hindsight, I'd like to say that, but even then, we just realized that our ability to run really fast in this part of the world was giving us good rapid scale. We essentially positioned ourselves in the first phase as a platform for advertising of mobile internet for rest of the world, not US. And the world is even today is divided as US and rest of the world. And so anybody who worked for us, any customer who wanted to work for us, if they wanted to reach rest of the population in the world, we became the default platform. Once you became the default platform for the rest of the world, investors or customers or employees saw us as a legitimate player who could actually have a shot at this industry, because by the 2010, 2011, the world had started to realize that the internet would be a global phenomena. We could be one of the players who will play a formidable game in rest of the world. So we were able to capture rest of the world.
When did you become profitable?
Truly, we became profitable in 2016. And we have stayed so ever since.
So about
almost
8-9 years to become profitable.
That's correct. 8 years to get to profitability. And that too, I think, we were knocked into a place in order to get to profitability. In hindsight, it was good that we knocked into that place to force ourselves to get to profitability. Otherwise, we could have continued to burn.
What does being knocked into a place mean?
You know, by 2015, we were like, we were, so post 2011, 2012, when we got big capital, the expectation overtook us. Our first mistake was we stopped being authentically thoughtful about how to scale the business. We started to get, we started to take in too many external inputs
Were
on
those
how to
investor inputs?
not just that, but just broader inputs. Like we just got enamored by things, right? We were like thrown into the limelight. We were thrown into like a lot of things, and we did things that just made like headlines. Launch new countries one after next. Go do big deals. Like we did all of those things that we hired like over a yeah, we were a 200 member team in 2011. By 2012 end, we were 800 people. Like we hired like we were reckless. We were reckless. So and we didn't stop. We knew we had made a mistake, but by the time you realize that you made a mistake, you kind of like, okay, maybe the solution for me for the mistake I've made is to get more capital. I have two ways to solve my problem, right? I can get more capital, so I hide my issues under capital. That's a good answer. Nobody else knows. You know that you've made a problem. But if there is no extra capital coming your way, then the only answer you have is to go solve the problem. So by 2015, we were, we were on a high. Okay, the business was scaling, but so was our losses. But the business was scaling really fast. Okay, and like we were like north of like 200 odd $1 million, like top line, yeah, etc. etc. Like it was pretty solid, and yeah, it was good. Right? But the losses were also fairly steep.
Did you have to have those losses in hindsight? Did you have to have those losses to grow
Let me
that
tell you
fast?
that. I'll tell you the answer in 5 minutes. The answer is obviously no. Like the answer is obviously no, but why would I be very thoughtful if I can be like maverick and reckless at the same time and like do the big things? Why do the hard thing of like grinding it out there? Like why would I not want to be on the headlines? Let me just be there. So therefore, I was we were trying to do this, and and we had two of our customers who were contributing like 40% of our business. In a matter of like few months, just go away. They went. Doesn't matter what the reason was, they just went away. Two of our customers. And our business tanked 40%.
How were you feeling? Like, what did they say? Did they send you an email? Like, how did you know? Like, how did you feel the minute you knew these were churning?
It happens over like 2 months because, these are media, they do media spends on you, and then suddenly they stop, they start to reduce the media spends, and then you kind of see, they go down like significantly and significantly to, they don't go to zero, but they trickle. And it's their strategy. They don't need to spend anymore.
So you saw the numbers
We
plummeting.
saw the numbers plummet, and suddenly two of our customers go down. Our business drops 40%. On a quarterly basis, Q1 of 2016, we were losing $20 million a quarter. $20 million a quarter.
So these customers were contributing close to $80 million in total then. These two customers.
They were contributing 80, actually more than that, because our business was actually higher scale.
So maybe $100 million then.
Yeah, close to 100 million. So $100 million goes away.
So you're saying there are clients out there in advertising who'll spend $50 million a year?
Yes. Yes. And they are large customers who, for a short period of time, really want, these are annualized numbers, right? So they really want like large scale spends.
Where were these customers from?
US, Europe and US, right? And so suddenly we saw the business drop. And our problem, that I think that there was a problem, just became a glaring problem for us. We had a problem that we were burning money. Not just that we were burning money, we were losing money. So end of Q1, we had $35 million coming into 2016. In Q1, we lost $20 million. We're left with $15 million.
And at that time, you were the first unicorn. You were the
Yeah.
poster boy.
Yeah. Right. And so all of those things were just like people were calling you to say, hey, do you need help? We can like do this, we can do that. Like they were all like distressed. People suddenly realized that we were in distress and all of those. And they were correct, by the way, to a certain extent. And it was the most excruciatingly painful, humiliating, and shameful time for me as an entrepreneur, as somebody who was at the helm of the company. Because it's under my watch that we are in this situation. You can, your first tendency is to essentially externalize the problem. It's your problem. It's your problem. Market did this. Doesn't matter. You got to solve it. It's your problem. And that got knocked into, it just became clear we have to solve it. Nobody is coming to help you. And when the times are tough, nobody comes and helps you. Nobody. The biggest lesson you learn as an entrepreneur is that you have nobody else to blame. You have to take responsibility. B, nobody is coming to help you. You're on your own out there. In that world, you're on your own. You just got to do this yourself. But here's the thing that really happened. When you get down to it to say, I am going to solve it, we have no clue how to solve it. Then you get into the grind, the real way of building a business. You do the hard thing. You make hard decisions. You make hard calls. And suddenly we realized in a matter of 45 days, we got rid of bad business because we were doing bad business. It means like we were doing business with customers where we were losing money. Get rid of that business.
Just to show that the top line was...
Yes. We had wrongly negotiated deals with customers. Like we just like indiscipline. Now, am I going to blame somebody else for that indiscipline? I got to take the responsibility for it. So we fix those things.
We have a digression here, which is, who was selling those bad deals? Was it like people with the wrong incentives? Like, was it an incentive problem?
It was maybe an incentive problem, but there is a bigger problem here. My eye was not on the ball. Look, let's not try and, in entrepreneurship, right? Let's not try and externalize these things. My eye was not on the ball. I was not running the company as I should be. That's the reality of it at that moment, right? And so I had to learn a hard lesson. It is sad that I had to learn it in a somewhat public manner, but I had to learn that lesson. 9 years later, I am so glad I learned that lesson because in about a 45-day period, we broke even. Q2 of that quarter, of that year, 2016, our losses were zero from 20 million a quarter before. Q3 of that quarter, we made $3 million. Never since we have not made money. It is how you should run a business. Could I not have done that like earlier? I should have. Why did I not do it?
Did you feel good when you became profitable?
Very. There was a sense of control, true control. I knew end of that 90 days, we would now make it. Because 90 days prior to that, I had no clue how we were going to make it. It gave me confidence, not at just at a personal level. It actually gave me confidence that as a company, we will always survive. There is a difference. As an entrepreneur, there is a game about, being able to take excruciating amount of pain in order to survive, and in the same moment, have the ability to think big and thrive. These are two extremely juxtaposed situation that You have to bring together at the same time. You have to have the mind frame of both.
You're thinking heaven while you're still in hell.
Yes. And that is the only way to win the game. Because the one thing that I refuse to do at any point of time in my life is to survive only. Only survive. You got to essentially be able to place your bets that if they play out, you come out as winner. And we did that. We made big bets. Our biggest bets were made in, as soon as we became profitable. We made big, humongous bets. We made our bet to essentially go to the, a new transformed advertising stack. Our ad stack was a lot more human-driven ad stack, human intervention-led ad stack. There, human could play the game in between and kind of. We moved the world to a complete machine-driven ad business, completely. Made the big bet on it. In 2018, we acquired a company for little less than $100 million of our own money because we were making that big bet. That was one. We sowed the seed for Glance in 2016. Sowed the seed for it. A small team of 5 people would put aside to say, hey, go figure this out. There is something here, we don't know exactly what it is. Took them 3 years to figure it out, so that in 2019, we actually launched Glance. Big mega bets we were able to make because now we were confident on our own ability to always survive. That is not equal to thriving. So we now had to place the bets to thrive. We did. 2017, massive bets. 2018, massive bets. They started to pay off in 2019. By 2020, we had these big things coming out, and we see the results of those today.
There's this historical, legendary story that we all heard some version of. Every founder in India has heard some version of this, which is your fundraise with Masa, right? Like you raised $200 million. I'll tell you what I've heard.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is the Chinese whispers version of it. You walk in the room. I'm sure this is not true. You walk in the room. Masa asks you how much you want. You say 200 million and he gives it to you. This is what I've heard. Right?
Not at all.
So I want to hear the real version of the story. And
I
also,
wish it were like that. Why not?
I want to hear the real version of the story. And then I also want to hear from you if somebody else was raising capital, whether it be early stage capital or whether it be late stage, 200 million and whatnot. What can founders do better in the fundraising journey? And also, what were your metrics when you raised this money? Like rough numbers.
I think at that point of time, our business was $40-50 million business, somewhere in that range. And so, I was introduced to SoftBank by someone in Delhi and said, hey, you should go meet SoftBank. I actually didn't know what SoftBank was at that time. And they said, hey, you should kind of come and see Masa. I was like, okay, who's Masa? Of course, the world knows him now a lot more than globally the world actually knew him at that point of time. So I kind of looked him up and I was like, okay, this is interesting and, I should go see him. But in those days, the visa used to take 1 month. The Japanese visa used to take almost a month. So I was like, okay, I can go see him and I'm in the middle of a capital raise. And so the representative basically said, hey, we are very keen on like ad businesses in general because Masa owns Yahoo in Japan. He is a big believer in advertising. Are you okay in us doing due diligence ahead of time? And so I was like, okay. So they kind of landed like gazillion number of lawyers into our office even before I even knew what SoftBank was. And they did a lot of due diligence. So by the time I reached a month later, they had their due diligence done. So of course, by that time I had learned about Masa and, and so I go see him and very charismatic person who kind of like sits down and, and let me just explain the setting, right? The setting is like a room which is like the biggest conference room that I've ever seen, okay? Huge. And there were like some 30 chairs on each side of the conference room. On one side, there was his team sitting. On the other side is me and my co-founder Mohit. The two of us are sitting, and Masa is sitting at the head of the table. And he asked me to present. So, and he turns around towards the screen. So it's me now speaking with him, and so many people watching. There are only two people speaking. And while I was sharing with him, there was only two or three things that I think I told him. I said, I want to build a global ad stack. I think the world requires an ad platform, and I can build it. And I can build one where we can actually enter the US. And I need you as a partner to go build this ad stack in the US and in Japan, in the biggest ad markets in the world. What was the difference? I was making pitches just prior to that, where I was only containing my pitches to building a business just in Asia. Because there is a difference in different kind of investors. Masa is a big thinker. On my way to his office, I was reading up about him. What I realized that he's always bet big. He had bought SoftBank, or he had bought Vodafone for I think $16-18 billion by taking a debt of $16 billion. And you could literally sit there and say, a person whose business started off as a reseller for software actually is sitting on such a massive business. He's a risk taker. Everyone else where I was going and pitching prior to that in my fundraise was a risk mitigator. So my pitch to him changed on the fly. And I said, if I have an opportunity to actually build a global business, it is only him who will back me for this, because everybody else is thinking rationally. And they're trying to give me small check sizes, which will just kind of be okay, be good enough. So I poured my heart out in that pitch. My heart out to say, I want to build a global business, and I need you to essentially back me on building this global platform. At the end of it, he asked me, how much money do you need? I was already in negotiation, advanced negotiation for raising $50 million with somebody else. My natural answer with anybody else would have been to hedge my bet on the $50 million that I'm raising with somebody else. With having one more partner, I would have asked another $50 million. I don't know what happened in that moment, and I said $250 million. There was this pause for 15 seconds by him. You kind of almost locked in. And I wasn't sure what was going to come out at the end of those 15 seconds, because he could throw me out of the room or not. At the end of that 15 seconds, he said, why 250? And I knew at that moment that I have him hooked on the vision that I'm sitting with of building a global business. And of course, I narrated it out to him. This is why I need the money. This is what I'm going to do with it. All of that was being made up on the fly. I may have had those fleeting thoughts in my life, but never had I had the opportunity to present it to anybody. Never had anybody even had the audacity to even ask me those questions, because most people that you end up dealing with in life are all about risk mitigation, not opportunity creation. I somehow felt that energy in that room, in that moment. So I spoke. His next sentence was, can you do with 200? And I was like, really? Did he just say this? And now I'm like, no, I cannot do with 200. I think that was my reaction. I cannot do with 200. That's 250 is the exact amount that I need. I said, okay, what is the valuation? that you're willing to give me? I'm like, 1.5 billion. Just to be clear, my previous valuation was 100 to 120 million. Okay. So I said 1.5 billion. And he's like, pre or post? And I'm like, okay, I'm not being thrown away. Okay, there is no, I'm not being thrown away in this moment. Like, okay, pre and post. All right, let me not push my luck too much. I'll say post. But, he said, look, I'm not going to do 250. I'm going to do 200. We didn't agree on the valuation. I didn't budge. He said, I will not pay 1.5. He said, I will call you in 48 hours. And I'll give you my offer for giving you $200 million. Now, in all of this, there was a lot of, Japanese, SoftBank Japanese people who were sitting there. They were smiling. They're very, they had started to smile. They were getting excited. Why? Because they had spent the last 1 month doing due diligence on us. They were getting excited. But my co-founder who was sitting there, he was losing his shit. He thought that he literally looked at me. I cannot say this on live TV, but he was literally mumbling, like explicitive towards me to say, what is wrong? Like, we have traveled all the way for you to do this? Like, what is it that you're like, shut up. Like, stop it. And the only person I was ignoring was him. Because I was like, okay, if I see him for too long, I think I will go back to being normal. Yeah, rest is history. Like, we do get 200 million. We do get, we get it.
You also raised money from Jio. Was it the same reason? And there is some history between you and Mukesh Ambani. So I'd like to know, like, I've heard that you were Mukesh Ambani's note taker. Is that also myth or is that real?
Yeah, no. I used to work for McKinsey. In those early days of, this is 2001, 2002, Reliance was launching Reliance Infocom, the first version of their telecom business. And they had hired McKinsey to essentially do something. I was the flunky in the team, like I was 22, 23-year-old or something. And so I was part of the team. And, I clearly did not know anything about the telco business. So there was no way I was going to try even feign like doing anything. Yeah, you could like describe in a glorified way, you could say I was a note taker. I was literally sitting in meetings, like either making spreadsheets or taking some notes and making those things happen. But the part of that was, and I've told this to him many a times, I would sit in meetings with him for like 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, 5 to 6 days a week for 18 months. And I saw him. I saw him and I saw Manoj Modi. These are people who are masters of their craft. They were like, you're learning from the best in the world. Ability to think beyond what human mind can even fathom. Audacity to go after it. The tenacity to actually be in the details. Clarity of thought. Courage. Like, it was on display for 18 months. Yes, I get it that their last name carried Ambani. But they were not going for the little game. They were going for a game that the world had never seen. That's not. Like, you sit there. And, at that point of time, he was like 40 something. Mid 40s probably. Early 40s probably. And you could see that happen. And those things are not taught in school. Those things are not taught.
Can you give me an anecdote? A micro example of something like this?
It's, you know, there was a big analysis that the McKinsey team had done to essentially come back and say, hey, how much would it cost to make a phone call? And I remember that number in a very aggressive scenario, that number was like, I think that number was like a 1 rupee to 1 rupee 50 paisa per minute. And we present that to him, and there's like a 50-member, like again a massive conference room, 50 people are kind of presenting that to him, and he looks at it and he's like, I need this to be 10 paisa. And everybody in the room is like stunned. I would pretty much argue that everybody thought that like he's just being ridiculous. You can never get 10 paisa. We got to 20 paisa eventually when we launched. 20 paisa. It is the ability to have the conviction and see a world differently that then changes the natural flow of things for you. What changed? The reason why it was 1 rupee 50 paisa was everybody was assuming a certain scale of usage, certain number of subscribers. He in his head was saying, if I make it 10 paisa, then my number of users is actually 20 times of the users that you're really telling me. And so I am going to assume that that scale will appear. You have to now come and tell me how to get to 10 paisa. And I will know. And so suddenly he had opened the doors for everybody in the room to think about the opportunity at a different scale and therefore think of the business differently. Did he have any past experience of doing that? I don't know. Did he have any past data to suggest that this could be that big and that it could get to 10 paisa? Nobody in the world had. So what was the data suggesting? None of it. But the beauty was that he could see a world that nobody else saw. Like for a 23-year-old or 24-year-old me, it was the most enamoring, the best experience of my life. I gave him so much credit to where I am today. Like for those 18 months of paid training of sorts.
But they invested in you, right?
They recently invested into us, yes.
What was the reasoning? Was it similar to the Masa meeting, or was this a different pitch?
Somewhat similar. The idea was twofold. This time when they got to know we were raising money for Glance, they knew me a little bit, or they knew me. And so when we spoke and they heard that we truly want to build a global consumer platform, they saw it in two ways. I think one, they truly saw it as a way to support and be part of an audacious vision of building a global consumer platform from India. Nobody has done that in the past. So I think he connected to the audacity of the vision. Did I match his audacity? I don't know. I would have to ask him that question specifically. Maybe next time I'll do that. The second was, it was something where they realized that on a geo network in itself, in India, it would play a big role. And at that point of time, they did want to launch their own handset. So therefore, our Glance platform could deeply connect into their own handsets. And after the first meeting, they said, we're going to invest all of the $200 million that you're raising. They wanted to do the deal. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. I learned so much from them. Now also from Akash, who I work with. You learn so much from just being with how they think about the world. Like they think about the world so differently, so differently. Like it's every moment of like, it's amazing. And now it's in wide display on what
It's
and how
truly
they're,
abundant thinking in some ways.
yeah. And then going after it, truly going after it, like huge, massive, abundant thinking with exceptional execution, ruthless execution. It's amazing. So much to learn from.
What is the current state of InMobi? Like, I'm not talking about Glance, I'm talking about InMobi. How big is it? You know, are you happy with where you're at? Like, where is InMobi today?
The way I describe InMobi is slightly different from the way it evolved or it was in its early days. InMobi today is a end-to-end consumer internet company. InMobi has a massively strong advertising business and a very big consumer platform with Glance. Both of those are part of InMobi. Of course, there is a capital structure of independent capital structure that I have for Glance, but that's how I think of the company. So we are a classical internet company. We are a global internet company. We have a global consumer platform. We have a global ad platform. On the ad platform, I'm very happy where we are. One of the most advanced ad platforms in the world. The ad business on the planet is, distributed across some 15 big players, maybe at best 20 big players. We are one of those 15 to 20 players in the world. It is impossible, very, very hard for a new player to come in that industry. It's so complex. A lot of consolidation has already happened. A lot of players have gone away. It's in a state of equilibrium, the ad industry, and we are part of it. The ad industry is going to grow massively. With AI applications coming into the world, you and I are not going to pay for AI applications anymore. They are going to behave like internet applications where they will get subsidized through ads. What is the objective of ad platforms? The objective of the ad platforms in the world is to keep the internet free. It's to keep the internet subsidized, right from subsidizing content to subsidizing news to subsidizing games, making them free, to subsidizing e-commerce today. And in the future, subsidizing all AI applications. How do you think every AI application, this agentic economy, is going to behave at scale when it reaches every consumer? Yes, today in the early days, you and I pay for it a little bit. But in the long term, they're all going to get subsidized through ads. So we are in an amazing place with a large-scale, global, very efficient ad platform, and we are very happy about where we are. It's a business that we run massively, at massive scale, very profitably. Very happy about where we are. What we've added to this ad platform is added a very big consumer capability with Glance to create a global consumer internet company. If you take Google as a company, Google has google.com and YouTube and has a Google ad platform. Facebook has the same thing. Tencent has same thing. Like Tencent has WeChat and has Tencent ad platform. So a lot of these companies globally have consumer and ad platforms. We also now have the same stack. Of course, ours is not as big today, but it is getting there. So when it comes to Glance, what we have created is we have tried to create a global platform. Glance AI, which we recently launched, it's our AI commerce platform. I think the way the world would shop in the world of AI would be different. Glance AI is disrupting shopping in the world. The way the world would shop before Glance AI and the way the world would shop after Glance AI would be different. It is very similar to how your search changed post GPT. The world changed. Similar to UPI, how UPI changed the way we make payments, or Uber, how it changed the way we hail cabs has changed post Uber. That's what we would do. We are doing with Glance AI. The way the world shops before Glance AI and the way the world shops after Glance AI is different. The interesting part is we are going after the global world for this. We're launching this globally. We expect we'll have about 100 million users just in the US in 12 months from now. We would have about 400 to 500 million users using Glance AI across the globe in 12 months from now. It's the most advanced generative AI technology that's ever built. We built a foundation model for shopping where the last 20 years of intelligence on shopping has been trained, and it is under training continuously. We built a generative AI model on top of it, which basically changes the way you look at a product, because the way you look at a product now is with you in the
So,
with you
so in a
around
way,
it.
it's like ChatGPT has made search hyper personalized.
Yes.
You're making fashion hyper personalized.
I'm making shopping hyper personalized. The first model that we have launched is fashion, but you're right. We're making shopping hyper personalized.
So you remove the browse behavior that you had from search. On Google search, if I searched, I would find 20 things. You removed the browse behavior, and you've now introduced a ChatGPT-like behavior, which is, here's your answer. Here's the clothes you need.
That's part of it. The bigger part of that also is that what you see it on yourself now.
So it's personalized, and it's here's your recommendation.
Well, it's personal. Personalized is when I would show you only the product that's right for you. Personal is when I would put that product on you. So I would show, it's like a trial, right? When you go and get a trial done, you kind of see it on yourself. Well, using generative AI, I could do that right then and here. So you show the trial, you kind of try the product out. It suggests the best looks for you. You try them on you in using generative AI, and then it basically tells you the two choices and two places where you should go buy it from. All of these three are models that are getting trained and are trained. So the model actually gets trained on you now as a consumer. It's very similar to the GPT experience that you would have for getting answers and responses.
Okay, so I had a bunch of more questions for you, but I think I want to do something slightly different, which is you have told me this story of the past till where InMobi is today. You've started from your startup journey, what startups were like, what India was like, what internet was like, how many people believed in it, how many people didn't believe in it, and you drew a story from 2007, 2008 to 2025. Now, I need you to tell me the same story from 2025 to 2030 or 2040. Because you've played this story once before, you're seeing where startups are now, what are cool things, but you also know that you took contrarian bets back then, but now there's a very different set of things that's cool. There's a very different things that will get you married. There's very different things that might work. And I'm sure you're angel investing as well. So you're seeing which startups are working, which are not. You're seeing how these AI models are playing out. Paint the future for me.
Yeah, look, I think for us, we're building InMobi as founders. We're building InMobi to be a generational company. We want to see this company over a long period of time. So therefore, that question is something that we do think about. Do we have all the answers? Maybe not. But at some level, we clearly see ourselves as a global consumer internet company that would build something which should be used by everybody on the planet. Everybody. We want to build that. We see the opportunity of making that happen with Glance AI. The artificial intelligence as a technology is so advanced, and we have made such massive bets on it that we feel we are very, you got to be an early adopter of these technologies. We don't really know what is going to happen. I give this analogy many a times. It's like a fog. The world of AI right now there's no clarity. But we have so much belief in it that in that fog we are driving at 100 miles an hour. We have that much belief in that opportunity. We are seeing that opportunity translate into real application with Glance AI. We are seeing that opportunity translate into InMobi ads as we launch generative advertising, making the internet more beautiful. We are betting big on that. So we believe in the next 5 years, our technology, our products, Glance and InMobi both, everything that we do should be touched by every consumer on the planet. That's what we are really going for. We think that is a possibility. Is it audacious? Yes. Is it hard? Yes. Might we fail going for it? Yeah. We still want to go for it. And we think we have all the things in our arsenal to go for this. The most important part of that is our belief on our own technologists in this country, our belief in our own engineering capacity and capability, our belief in the resolve that we sit with to say India should write software that the world should run on. I truly believe that, especially with AI.
And you've already done it.
Yes, we want to do it even bigger, 10 times bigger, 100 times bigger than where we are right now. And we're going to go for that. That's the resolve that we have in the company today. The best reason and the biggest thing that gives me that confidence, it's not just something that I carry. You go around the office, you go around, talk to my leadership team, you talk to different people, they will have some version of this confidence, some version of this belief, some version of this desire to actually go after it.
So this is the InMobi and Glance story. Let's go slightly more macro, right? To startups in general in India right now. Like startups now are raising a ridiculous amount of money. 2021, 22, we've seen the perils of excess. Investors now have a lot of dry powder that they're sitting on that they're not actually investing in. They're not actually deploying. They're all waiting for an AI opportunity, but the AI opportunities are better outside. So what do you think now that the 2008 version of you would see as contrarian in this ecosystem? What do you think the ecosystem is doing wrong?
I don't know whether I would say wrong, but I'll say what they should do. Look, I think we have, in India, we can build two kinds of companies. One, a set of companies that solve for what I would call local inefficiencies. Our country, by definition, given we are an emerging economy, has a lot of inefficiencies. Companies in the last 10 to 15 years have truly built amazing consumer products that solve for these inefficiencies in the local markets. Most of them end up dealing with solving for logistical inefficiencies, sending something from one place to the next, making that more accessible, easy, more timely, like all of those things, right? And they have changed our lives. The way we shop today has changed, the way we travel has changed, the way we access services have changed.
We got logistical excellence now.
We have unbelievable level of logistical excellence backed by the internet capability and payment infrastructure. I don't think anybody in the world comes even close to that. That's the beauty of our entrepreneurship in the last 15 years. Our country has catapulted itself into the most efficient logistical country in the world, despite having horrible roads, horrible road infrastructure. It has yet mastered that. Imagine what would happen if our road infrastructure were to improve, where we would get to. So that's one. Would there be more such opportunities? Yes. And companies should keep going and building those. The second opportunity, which is, in my view, is a lesser seen opportunity, is building global software from India, especially the AI software opportunities. The opportunity scale and size in that game is phenomenally large. Phenomenally large. And that does not mean you must go to the US, by the way. It could also mean that you go into Asian markets, into European markets, into Middle Eastern
But
markets.
not selling software to India, from India to India? You haven't seen those work?
They don't work. Unit economics for our country is not as strong. So if you have a software-only business, the unit economics will not justify great outcome. We may have to wait about 5, 6 years, 7 years for that to start happening. Typically, the unit economics of software businesses start to happen in a country when the GDP per capita of that country crosses like $5,000 or so. We are several years away from that. So therefore, if you build these businesses in India today, we got to take them global. Go after the global opportunity. By the way, even if India could pay for it, go after the global opportunity because that is available to you. We are sitting at an intersection of the world where the world is getting a little divided. China is facing a different kind of a challenge where their acceptability of their products, and especially software products, globally is going down. That gives us, as a country which is a very hardworking country, a huge opportunity to go after, build these things at global scale. I don't see people thinking about global opportunity as much. Is that a function of the ambition or is that a function of capital availability?
It's a function of distribution, no? Because historically, whenever, like, for example, we have tried to build software, getting like a global audience to care about it, to even use it the first time, it's a, like, distribution is a big challenge because you don't know anybody there. There's this landmass gap.
Well, it is lesser. It's not as big as you make it out to be. That's the mindset change that I think our entrepreneurs need to go through. In the mindset of everybody, it's a very hard problem.
The distribution piece?
Yeah, that's just outlined. That means nobody's going to go after it. So therefore, you should. An entrepreneur is somebody who sees things that others don't see. You're not an entrepreneur if the only thing you see is what everybody else sees. If it is written in newspapers, that's not an opportunity. So you have to see different parts of the world, whether it's Middle East, whether it's Europe, whether it's the rest of Asian markets. The world is pretty large. Is US the largest market? Yes. If you being very, very successful, would you want to be there? Yes.
So you would replicate the InMobi story in the way that you'd first go after those little pockets, you'd dominate them, and then eventually you build enough brand sort of equity to go into the US because
We've
people
done
know
that
it.
twice now. We did that with InMobi ads business. We started off in India, tested it out, very rapidly went into Southeast Asia, went into Middle East, Africa, Europe, China.
So is the
In 2014, went into the US.
so is the round the world in 80 days model.
Probably. The other one, we did the same thing with Glance. We launched Glance in India, launched it in Southeast Asia, and now launched it in Latin America, and now launched it in the US.
How do you do these launches? Like if I were to do a launch, let's say somebody was building software tomorrow and they wanted to launch in Latin America, like how did you do your Glance launch there?
We have always believed in, if you want to do something global, we have always believed in a partnership-led model. As a company, we are very good at partnering.
So you go to an agency and
Whatever, we figure out a partner. We figure out partners in every country we want to be in. We think building, there is a saying, right? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go big, go together. I think that's the model we go after. We are applying this through our global distribution. So for example, when we take Glance global, in the US, we have partnered with the likes of Samsung, Verizon, with Motorola, with Google. We partner with these companies to say, hey, I have something amazing. You have distribution. Can I actually combine forces with you? Because combining these forces is great for the consumer. And of course, great for each of our businesses. Now, these deals take 12 to 24 months to do.
run me through the process. Like,
Sorry?
run me through the process. Is it like you get an intro to somebody from Motorola and then you make a pitch to them the same way you'd raise money?
Absolutely. And look, all of these companies are so they're very open to partnership. They are looking for great software. They are looking for great services for their customers. They're very open. We just think it's too hard. We don't go to them.
Finding that decision maker is like, and having enough trust with that person is a challenge.
It's not a challenge, it's a process. They will help you. Once you make one inroad in a matter of you got to be patient. Look, you're going after these companies who are phenomenally successful. They are not just going to open their doors just for anyone and everyone to let in. Yes, so they have guardrails. So you should be patient enough and have you know, the resilience to keep at it. So we've kept at it across, 25 such partners, of which 15 of them would have converted for us. And suddenly we have a global scale business with Glance. We have partnerships with, I just said, Samsung, Verizon, Motorola, Google, likes of, bunch of other companies across the. They just, if you build something amazing, go partner with somebody who will help you do this. Don't worry about hoarding all the economics to yourself. Share the economics. If it's great for the consumer and you're willing to share the economics, they'll give you global distribution.
But it's just like, it is so surprising to me, and maybe sales wizardry and maybe exceptional storytelling to get like a Samsung to give away a piece of their lock screen to you.
It's an amazing ability to build a great product. We have built a world-class, unique product from India. We take pride in that. We take pride in that in advertising also. You got to believe that you can create the best product on the planet. You're not going to get these things if you're not best in something that you do. We are today best in building a lock screen product. We are best in the world today on AI commerce. We are one of the best in the world on our advertising products. You got to be the best.
I have one last question. Yeah. And this is about Naveen the man. This wealth that you've generated, I'm sure you've generated wealth for yourself as well, right? As a founder. Has that changed you? What do you do differently now? Do you optimize your time better? Like, what is the support structure you have around your personal life now and also your professional life that allows you to do what you do? And how do you think about wealth, personal wealth in general?
The wealth has given me the freedom to really go after even bigger things to achieve. I feel that I'm very lucky, supremely lucky. Did I have everything to deserve this? I don't know. I don't think so. So I'm very, very lucky, right? Once I've gotten this opportunity, this is rare. I am not going to let go of this. This freedom that I've gotten has allowed me to dream bigger than the biggest I've ever imagined. And I thrive in that. I live in that world. I enjoy that world. I surround myself with people who have similar ambition, who are crazy, who are passionate enough to see a different world, because there is an opportunity to go achieve it. And if not you, then who else? So that's what I do most of the time now.
What is that number for most people? At what number, like in terms of wealth that they should generate, where they can start thinking much bigger?
When your passive income is more than the highest amount you can spend per year.
So for most people, that's about 10, 20 lakhs, let's say. Or slightly higher if they're married.
No, that's, passive income is more than what maximum you can spend.
No, I'm saying that passively they should be getting 20, 30 lakhs a year, let's say about at 5%, let's say 10% growth, but 5% for you're keeping aside for inflation, about 5-6 crores, you think that people can play a much more free game.
Yeah, let's say at about 10 crores or so, 10 to 20 crores, your passive income is far higher. You don't have to worry about anything in life.
Then you can play the big game.
Play the big game. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? You have a unique opportunity to go build something. Go do it. Like, we are not going to be in a situation like we are in today. As Indians, we are the luckiest. Our country has things that we can resolve and solve and therefore do things. Opportunities. Our capital markets is out there. Just every retail investor is telling you, hey, build something, come to the capital markets. I'm going to fund you to go big. We are equally hungry for making you bigger.
So everything broken is an opportunity in India.
Well, that's the opportunity to build. The rising middle class who is not necessarily participating in the building of these companies is saying, I am actually going to own your company and I'm going to push you to go make it big. You have a thriving capital market today, amazing capital market today. You have talent at large scale. You have a talent that is actually willing to work really hard, much harder than in the Western countries. It requires you to work hard. It requires you to essentially get rid of a lot of the basics of life to achieve something. So you got to go for it, and therefore you got to go find those people, and there are in plenty who want to make something, out of their life. Nobody comes, or not many, come out there and say, I just don't want to do anything. Most good people want to have a purpose to their life, whatever their purpose be, doesn't matter. But if your purpose can align with their purpose, you'll find a lot of them in India today who are hungry for doing these kind of things. And you just got to get them together. You would have a great time.
So you're saying that all the market forces are there, like the funding is there from the public markets now. Talent is there because the startup boom has happened and we have all that talent, excess talent there. The problems and the opportunities are there. You just need to lead and sort of tie it up.
Ambition sits there. We're a country that wants to be Viksit Bharat in another, by 2047. That's an ambition of a country. It's not an ambition of an individual. It's a society that is sitting ambitious. You do these podcasts. You have a large number of people who hear these podcasts. You typically end up doing them, I'm assuming, with a lot of entrepreneurs and people who are building companies and startups. Why do you have such a large followership? The big reason for you to have such a large followership is because that kid who's growing up in middle class town is saying, I think I'm going to go build a startup and change the country or change the world. That ambition of middle class, hope, and a possibility is possible in our country today.
It's a phenomenal conversation. I think you have told us two stories, one of the past and one of what the next 10, 15 years could be, starting with the technology, ending with, hey, we still need ambition, hope to get there. Thank you so much for doing this. It's a good conversation.
I enjoyed this. Thank you.